Hello and welcome once again. My name is TV Devi, but TV for short. And I'm joining you today from sunny Pretoria, and I'm the moderator for today's digital dialogue. For those participants who are blind or have visual impairment, all speakers will begin with a short self-description. So I'll start with myself. I'm a Black woman with brown hair, slicked back into a ponytail. I'm wearing a black t-shirt, and I have a blurred virtual background. Digital Dialogues is a series of panel discussions exploring civil society's perspectives on the emerging digital world. Our theme today is from local vision to global impact, the role of technology in empowering a new wave of innovators. Across Africa, we are seeing extraordinary innovators using technology to solve real community challenges from healthcare and education to climate resilience and civic participation. Yet many still face barriers when it comes to scaling their ideas or gaining global visibility. Today, we explore what it takes for local innovation to travel beyond borders, what role technology plays in enabling this journey, and how we can build ethical, inclusive ecosystems that ensure African innovators lead and not only follow global digital trends. Okay, to get us through today's session, I'm delighted to extend a warm welcome to Richard Moraya, the founder and executive director of executive director of Demography Project, Ritmo Goka, program coordinator from the Restored Heart Foundation, Emrys Schumacher, researcher and advisor, senior director, policy and advisory at Karibu. The extended bios will also be dropped on the chat. Okay. To start us off today, each panelist will introduce themselves and frame the issues by sharing the current landscape and their key points for around 5 minutes. And then we'll have some discussions and questions. Please don't forget to post your questions into the chat, and we'll get to them later on in the session. Richard, would you turn on your camera and join me on the screen, please?
Yes, thank you very much, TV. My name is Richard Muraya, a dark-skinned African male in a gray branded polo shirt with a green background. I am a civic tech innovator. Basically, I develop and deploy low-cost technologies to enable communities make sense of their environments. Basically, what my organization, the Demography Project, does is deploying, designing, and enabling local communities collect data on their local environments for them to take informed action and make decisions based on this data regarding their environment. Our key innovation is called Mae Makwa. It is my indigenous language for my water. Basically, we distribute low-cost water quality and quantity sensing technologies and distributing them within households to enable local communities, again, understand their impact on the environment, that is, the freshwater consumption, and also the level of contamination of water within their localities. So within the context of today's discussion, we would like to enhance or scale up our innovation by showing how homegrown local solutions can be used to advance at a global level environmental responsibility as part of climate action. we understand that there's vested interests in how best we can go about climate action, as well as high costs in terms of financial capacity from both state and non-state actors to mitigate the worst effects of climate change. However, we have proven that local communities can be empowered with tools and data to enable them take action from a domestic level. That will be the context of my discussion today. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. You can turn off your camera, and I would like to welcome Ritwa to join me on the screen.
Right. Yeah, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. I am excited to contribute to this important dialogue on how technology can elevate locally grounded innovation. My name is Ritmo Akukir, and I work as the programs coordinator at the Restored Heart Foundation. I have a short curly hair on. I'm wearing a red and an animal skin shirt, and I have a white background behind me. So, for today, we would be talking about the Teacher Bank app. That's which we developed for the Teacher Bank project, which is a project that deploys teachers to communities, to schools in communities, in underserved communities in Nigeria. The project is one that sees the need for education, and with the reality of teacher shortages in Africa, in Nigeria, we have taken it upon ourselves to make sure that schools in underserved communities have as much teachers as they can compete favorably with their counterparts in urban societies. So today we'll be talking about technology as an enabler of local innovation. That is how we have been able to submerge the Teacher Bank app to the Teacher Bank project to ensure that the originality of the project is sustained, but technology is invested in it, so much so that it takes away the rigors of the usual traditional way of employment, interviews, and all of those. So today we will be we'll be talking about how we track learning outcomes in real time, how we are able to mitigate severe teacher shortages in the schools that we implement this project, how we are in serious conversations with government and other bodies to ensure partnerships and sustainability for the Teacher Bank project, and just how technology is elevated with locally grounded innovation without taking its essence. Thank you.
Thank you, Ritma. I think you can switch off your camera. Thank you. Emrys, can you turn on your camera and unmute? You can go ahead with your introduction.
Thank you so much, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to the discussion. My name is Emrys Shoemaker. I am the Senior Director for Policy and Advisory at Caribou. We're an advisory firm that provides consulting services around digital in development and humanitarian sector. And I also am the coordinator for the Digital Sovereignty Observatory at the Graduate Institute in Geneva. I'm a white, increasingly middle-aged male with brown and grey streaked hair, increasingly tired eyes and short stubble, and have a blue shirt on and a blurred background. And I'm sitting inside here in Geneva. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the work that we've been doing in the area of digital public infrastructure and how open source technologies can help enable innovation, and also the challenges that they present to the solutions that they present to some of the challenges around proprietary or monopolistic technologies, explore some of the ways those open source technologies are used to build what are increasingly called sovereign stacks, digital stacks to enable innovation, and also we'll talk about some of the challenges that they have in terms of their long-term sustainability and future. And I look forward to the debate and participating in the conversation that follows. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Emrys. I'd like to welcome back Richard and Ritma. Can you just switch on your cameras again? Emrys, please don't leave. Just keep your camera on. There we go. We're all back. This is the part where we ask each other questions just to tease out. Does anyone have any questions for either Richard, Ritma, Emrys, between the three of us?
I think I should go first. I could. I would like to ask Emrys a question with regards to the adoption of citizen-generated data within open source technology. And in this context, I would want to understand perhaps or hear from him where does he feel whether citizen-generated data can play a role not just within environmental conservation, but also democratic issues amongst other societal issues. As Ritma, again, as I'll come to her, also alleviating challenges with regards to service delivery from government agencies. Perhaps if I could ask Ritma that.
I think Ritma will have far more to say on this and far more insightful things to say on this than I do. But I think just a couple of thoughts. I mean, I think firstly, the use of open source digital technologies and platforms within the provision of government services and also within the provision of public sector engagement, interaction with citizens is rapidly growing. And I think the way in which the state, if you like, interacts with people and people interact with the state is increasingly mediated by technology. And there's a sense that there is a huge opportunity for technologies to make it easier for people to share feedback, user-generated feedback, to share information that citizens would like to share with the state. And that might not just be feedback. It might also be demographic data. It might also be data that they're recording about crime or public service outcome. There's a range of different kinds of user-generated content and in data that is that can be shared. But I think one of the challenges for service providers and for the state is knowing how to assess the veracity of the information that's shared, because obviously that data is critical for decision making. If you're a decision maker having to decide where to allocate scarce resources, being confident that if your user-generated data is part of an assessment of need, for example, being confident that that insight is reliable and can be trusted as the basis for making decisions about sharing water or education provision or whatever the different resource decisions are. I think that's a really big challenge. And in short, I think there's a huge potential for user-generated content to support governance services, broadly speaking. But the great challenge is how to make sure that the data that's shared is reliable and trustworthy. I hope that in some way answers your question. I know Ritma will have far more interesting things to say than I do on this. Ritma, to you maybe?
All right, thank you, Emrys, for passing the baton on. So basically for us, we have seen that there is a need to bridge ecosystems for collaboration. So our work has made it clear that no innovation can thrive in isolation. So partnerships have been central to our success. We partner with local schools because our projects are domiciled in public schools. So we partner with local schools who open their doors even when the infrastructure is bare. I mean, you just go to a school and then the classrooms are not in very good state. Um, there are no chairs in some situations, lighting, there are no boards, and all of those. But when we go there, we come with, okay, we're not going to do all of this by ourselves, but we're hoping that with a partnership, we're able to affect as much as we can. Now, to even get to these schools in these local schools or these public schools, would have to begin conversations with government agencies. They are the ones who understand the whole teacher shortage crisis. They are the ones who have bodies that regulate what happens in schools. They are also the ones who are able to tell you, okay, while implementing, this is better. These communities are more in need of teachers than these other communities. So while we do our needs assessment from our own end, the government has a database that allows us to draw from and then go to these communities and work with schools that actually need teachers. So if, take for instance, in Abuja FCT here, well, before we go to any school, we would have to go to the board, which is the Universal Basic Education Board, write to them, tell them what our project is about, tell them how and where we intend to implement, and from there they give us the go ahead or the approval, as the case may be, to implement. They also give us a list of schools that are in more underserved communities because we can't do it all by ourselves. But with whatever data we get, it allows us to do this work and impact as much as we can. Again, for now, with networks like the Civic Tech Innovation Network, it allows us to also learn from our peers across Africa so that we're able to fine-tune whatever partnerships we want in a way that says, okay, we understand that the needs here are local, but then again, for us to meet these needs, we would need all of the technology to back all that we would be doing. So for partnerships with government, it helps us to have data. It also gives us insights with policymakers and how best we can put out what we do. Then we also partner with the National Youth Service Corps, where core members, that's fresh graduates from university, go to communities to serve. More times than not, they are supposed to go to schools in underserved communities and teach there. So if we partner with them, we're able to also see, okay, while you're here, you can take courses on our TBP app. We also can pay you some stipends besides what the government is giving you, so that while you live there, you don't feel so out of place. And then we can also just prepare them for those who are trained teachers to continue that path beyond their service year. So the partnership is one that just gives an all-encompassing feel, one that says, oh, we can't do this thing in isolation, or one that says, okay, this is the beauty of what we are doing and how best it can reach those who need it most. And with partnerships too, we're able to also unlock new forms of funding and support, because whatever that we can originally do, with more partnership, we're able to do even more to expand, to spread our tentacles, to also make sure that the ecosystem is managed best, because it's a complete circle where we, the teachers, the school, the community, the students, and every other person who benefits totally from this project is affected. So basically, that's how much we are able to do with the partnership. And over time, it has given us some form of ease, because we already have a budding relationship with the board. So should we want to expand to other schools, we don't have to go and begin the whole process from the outset. What it means is, okay, we have implemented in 4 schools, 5 schools, and then we'd want to upscale. So it opens the door for us with a lot of ease, and we are able to implement in other schools. So basically, that's it with partnerships around here for the Teacher Bank project. Emrys, does this give you some level of pardon me, Patrick? Yeah, does this give you some form of clarity?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Emrys and Ritma.
All right. Thank you. Ritma, just stay on the camera. I think we're going to be on camera until the end of the call. Please don't run away from us. I'm not sure if there's any questions do you have, Ritma or Emrys, that you want us to tackle today? Or should I give you a question for you guys to answer? Okay.
Sure.
All right. I think I have a question for Richard.
Okay.
So I know he had spoken about his project being about water, and I see that it's community-based. So I want to know how they're able to keep the data, how they're empowering communities with the sensors, the data, and how the owners are a little away from just the consumers. It's something he would want to throw more light on it so that it just gives me a good feel of what goes on with their project.
Yes, thank you very much, Ritmo, for that question. I would want to start with this quote that the climate crisis is a water crisis. Basically, when you look at the manifestation of the climate crisis, be it floods, droughts, wildfires, amongst other challenges, all of them touch on the water cycle. So basically, once we can be able to manage the freshwater resources, specifically freshwater, then we can be able to mitigate the worst effects of the climate crisis. Basically, what we are looking at is how can we best enable local communities take charge of their freshwater resources. So what essentially the basis of this is that over 30% of all freshwater consumption in Kenya, and this is something, this statistic is replicable across the world. 30% of freshwater consumption happens at the household level. The leading water usage is agriculture, then domestic usage, then finally we have industrial use. So, and since all these three key avenues for water consumption touch on personal consumption at an individual level, then can we be able to inspire people to take action on freshwater resource management? So basically, we look at it in terms of fresh water is a finite resource, but we can be able to manage it sustainably by reducing our pollution on the freshwater resources that we have. Be it an extra 1 minute that you're washing your hands in the kitchen sink or in a bathroom sink, that extra minute costs the earth a certain amount of fresh water. And this, again, unfortunately, has to go through the entire water cycle to make it accessible again, not just to humans, but to the ecosystem. So essentially, what we are pursuing is distributing low-cost water quality testing kits that households across all socioeconomic backgrounds or indicators can be able to use this easy-to-use kits to test water quality. That is the contamination with regards to chemical and biological contamination. And we get from those kits, you get insights on how you can reduce exposure to chemical and biological contamination once you consume this water. So when water has high lead concentration or high bacterial contamination, boiling water or using water filters or something as simple as a basic clay pot can be able to reduce the level of contamination that again you consume within your body. So we are looking at addressing the health impacts of freshwater resources for both people and the planet. So that is on water quality. Then on water quantity, we install wireless sensors within water storage facilities, either at a communal level or at a household level, so that you can be able to track wirelessly the amount of water within your water storage tank, or basically just to track the consumption levels at a domestic level. So when you look at most municipal water or piped water services across the world, it generally gives you a rough estimation of how much water you've consumed within a certain period of time, whether it's a month, a week, or a year. But it does not give you insights on your personal habits or household habits on water consumption. So when you're watering your flowers in your yard in the morning, or whether you're washing your car, or whether you're taking an extra 5 minutes in an extra 5 minute shower, all these activities affect water consumption. So what we empower local communities is with these low cost sensors to enable them see the impacts of personal habits on the Earth's finite resources. So that is what we've been doing this over the past 2 years, and our initiative called Mae Makwa, which is my indigenous language for my water. I must also address our atmospheric resources that I mentioned in my introduction. We are also installing air quality monitors within vulnerable communities who are at highest risk of air pollution, whether they are urban and peri-urban communities, or rural communities who have high incidence of using biomass for domestic energy. So all these sensors are share data on open data platforms across board, freely accessible, for, again, informed insights on how our relationship with the planet affects both our personal health as well as outcomes on the global climate crisis. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard, for that very vivid rundown. It gives me clarity. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Any questions? Any other questions?
I'd be interested in asking a question. I think one of the things that the presentations from everybody has really highlighted is the value and the importance of really citizen-led approaches to kind of sharing information, sharing data. And I'm just wondering if there are insights that that you might be able to share about ways in which data sharing can take place, citizen data sharing can happen in ways that are also protecting personal information and personal data. Because I think one of the challenges that we see in an increasingly digital age is that there's huge power in the data that we're able to share. But that power can be used in various ways. And making sure that it's used for the right reasons and for the right purposes and not misused is absolutely critical. So I'm wondering what advice you might give or experiences you have to people who are interested in this area about ways of making personal data sharing safe, protective, and mitigating against the risk of misuse, particularly when we're thinking about things like open data, open platforms, open source, and so on.
I think I'll go first on this. For the data that we collect, like I mentioned, our data is hyper local, since the data that we gather are from sensors that, again, have small coverage within the communities we serve. So basically, we avoid any personal identifiable data or any data sets that have some personal identifiable information around it. And essentially what we try to do is to center our data source and the implications of this data on the environment. Like I mentioned, some of the data sets that we collect from households are very personal, pertaining to personal habits and behavior. For example, like I mentioned, hand washing, duration of shower time, perhaps. All these, again, have a sense of personal touch on how exactly we relate not just to the planet, but also ourselves at our domestic level, because all these activities happen at a household level. So, to the best of our ability, we enable these by default to only access these devices to share this data to household members through Bluetooth connectivity, so that we avoid unnecessary data shared to open data to the internet, unless, again, these households volunteer to share this information. And the real purpose of this is to show them that they have ownership and for them to take insights on this from the data that we collected. On the data that we collect at an environmental, at the community level, or whether it's water quality tests from shared water wells, rivers, lakes, streams, amongst others, that unfortunately we have to share it in real time to the internet, because we have a whole host of stakeholders who need this data for them to make, again, informed decisions regarding how we engage and treat the environment. So this information primarily centers on key parameters, including chemical and biological contamination. So that it has no personal identifiable data per se, but the only distinct indicator we include is the GIS component, so that once we conduct public water quality tests, we can verify and ascertain the source of this data and where exactly that test was taken and at what time period. This also applies to air quality monitoring, where these sensors are installed at publicly accessible points. Again, because they have to measure air pollution or contamination of air resources within a certain outdoor area. So again, this has no personal identifiable information. All the registration of these sensors lies with our organization, not with any household per se. So for us, we really try our best to make sure that environmental data is accessible to the public on open science principles, but ensure that we retain the households or domestic participants' capacity and ownership of the data we are collecting. So essentially, we have to center it at a domestic level, but for information that needs to be out to the public for informed action, then that one we use open data platforms. So we really try to conform to these standards. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Ritma, you want to give it a crack as well?
All right. For data, we work with a lot of data from the school for the number of teachers they've had there, the subjects that they need students to come from, then students in the school, pre-implementation, mid-implementation, and post-implementation. That way, we're able to know if impact is made. That way, we're able to also know, okay, before we came to this community, this need was there, it was lacking, and with the intervention, a lot of parents now send their children to school. A lot of communities are getting better because education is the bedrock of every society. So basically, we get data from the government that we partner with, where they give us the number of teachers that they have posted to these schools. We also get data from teachers, from school heads, where we ascertain how many students are in the school, male, female, so much so that it just helps us with other sessions that are gender sensitive. Then we also get data from the app, the number of people who visit our app, the number of people who take courses on the app, the number of people who upload their CVs as volunteers or who show interest, the number of schools that upload their schools on the app. That way, we are getting data from everybody who is interacting with the app and everybody who is a stakeholder or a key role player in the Teacher Bank project at large. So our data comes from the totality of the work we do, from the app to the people we meet to how we interact. So we are able to just keep them in specifics, so much so that when we want to do a monitoring and evaluation, we're seeing how many people we have impacted through the time of implementation. And this is so because all of our projects run yearly, that's academic year, the whole academic year in that order. So if we are sure that, okay, in this year, this is what we have done so far, this is how much we've impacted. And then when we are going to the next school, we are using that as a base to gauge if the needs of that school supersedes the previous school that we're implementing, or if we haven't met a particular quota of what we had set out to also re-implement the school in that, to implement the project rather in that school. So basically that's it for us with data and project implementation. Thank you.
Thank you both. Super interesting and helpful. And I think really important to recognize how different data is treated in different ways and the importance of making sure that we protect people regardless of the data that is being shared, whether it's school level or GIS kind of data. So it's really interesting to hear that. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for the responses. The question on my side is, what partnerships have been the most impactful for you that you would like to share with the rest of us? Richard, can I start off with you? I know you're the king of partnerships.
Yes, thank you very much. We've developed key partnerships over the past 4 years that we've been running this initiative. I would really want to focus on one that is in my background, that is the North American Association for Environmental Education partnership that we have. And in that, we first, I was personally acknowledged as a top 30 under 30 class of 2024 on advancing environmental education. I came to learn through my organization's experience that there's so much insights that have been generated over decades by various professionals and other actors globally. And unfortunately, we do not need to reinvent the wheel. All the best we can do is adopt certain lessons or certain features from various partners and localize these interventions. This has been kind of fruitful because when you look at the climate crisis, the manifestation of climate change is uniform across the globe, with a few variations with regards to availability of resources, both financial and material resources. So what we've come to learn is that it's important to borrow lessons and again, localize lessons from key actors and players globally, which has been very instrumental in the implementation of our project. I should also give a special shout out to the African Union Civic Tech Fund and CTIN, again, because we've been able to create a network of collaboration across various countries across the continent in how best to implement civic tech initiatives and make them rights-based for the communities we are serving. So for me, I would really appreciate the service from or the networks that we've been able to generate from those two key platforms. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Emrys?
I think the question of partnerships is so critical to enabling innovation, to sharing from others and learning from others, as well as particularly around the area of protection and inclusion. I think one of the networks that I think is really helpful is some of the data protection communities that have sprung up around ways of managing data. But I also think one of the huge challenges, particularly for innovators in this area, is, and particularly with the huge collapse in funding that we've seen in many areas, the need to be able to share lessons about business sustainability. And I think this is a really important area where finding the right partnerships and networks can be absolutely critical. There are so many people with so many good ideas and so many ways of using technologies in innovative ways to find opportunities. But one of the hardest things is to generate revenue and to make these innovations sustainable. And I think ensuring sustainability is increasingly important given the collapse in aid funding and grants and so on. So I think this is an area where building networks to enable peer sharing of successful business models and so on would be very helpful.
Thank you, Emrys. Ritma, anything to add? Or am I putting you on the spot?
All right, so basically, to just add to all of these, so for me, besides partnerships now, there has to be inclusion, ethics, and sustainability. Because working in underserved community, it forces you to center your ethics naturally. Like you would have to remember that technology must never widen the gap, it must narrow it. So while you seek for partnerships, how best to say, okay, we are going to get this done, you must not take away the ethics of those society. You must not take away the dynamics that they are used to. So you're coming in as a partner through and through. That way, you're not taking away what they know, but you're just enhancing it in such a way that it allows them for ease of access, ease of usage, and ease of identity. So while we seek for partnerships and every other thing around it, we work towards inclusion, towards ethics and sustainability. Because in some of these underserved communities, if the project is not well received, it will eventually just die a natural death, or it's the whole essence of the implementation will not be met. Because if the people in the community don't feel a sense of ownership, a sense of partnership, they would over time not just be interested. One of the things we do is we like to work with teachers from the community. So while we have the app, we would encourage them to use the app, to apply via the app. Or when we come to filter the data that comes, we go back to the demography of where they are and how close in proximity they are to these implementing schools. That way, they understand the community, they understand the ethics of the community, and they have a sense of ownership towards the project. So it's okay, this is what is coming to our community, this is what we are a part of, and this is what we want to sustain. So putting them through onboarding sessions, understanding what the project is easy because they are like the go-between for the community, for sustainability, for the future of the implementation of the project in those communities. So basically, it is partnership, inclusion, ethics, and sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you, Ritma. Do we have any questions from the audience? I'm not seeing anything on the chat. Maybe does anyone want to come on camera and give us a question or a comment? Katlego, I'll take your hand while we wait for Talik to type the question on the chat.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Great discussion. I just wanted to find out what role do you think, firstly, the the beneficiaries of your various projects, like the users of the apps and so forth, as well as government in your various spaces can do to help with the sustainability of your project. This goes out to both of to Richard and Ritma, and maybe your thoughts on how best to contribute from those actors. Emrys, you can also answer that.
Thank you very much. I'll go first. From the experience that we've had with these key initiatives is that environmental monitoring, interestingly enough, is a career path and within STEM globally. And through the experience we've had, we've been able to make sure that we fit within government regulations on environmental monitoring. So all our staff have gone back to school to seek accreditation as environmental impact auditors through our National Environmental Management Authority. So that once we have this standardized knowledge and understanding on environmental monitoring, we can not only generate revenue and sustain the project by itself, but also have stable career paths for the volunteers that we started with at the start of this initiative about 2-3 years ago. So with this is that we've been able to make sure that we fit within regulation, various regulatory processes within our jurisdiction, making sure that the work we conduct complies with various legislation and policies surrounding environmental conservation. That way we can be able to ensure that, again, we have a streamlined approach in engaging communities, key stakeholders, as well as the various government agencies. The key challenge here has been, like Ritma said, gaining the trust of communities is very difficult. And if you approach them as a government representative or having your hat on as an innovator, sometimes this does not fly well with communities who do not necessarily have to trust that your methodology or your community engagement strategy is sound. So that's why we need to insert ourselves into these communities and their trust by understanding what exactly are the key issues affecting them with regards to freshwater resources or air quality issues. So then that way we can be able to co-create solutions or mitigation measures, again, for the communities we are serving. So we are not working in any form of isolation. We work very closely between all key stakeholders basically as an tech-enabled intermediary between communities and various stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard, for sharing this. I could pass for some of the things I would be saying for our organization as well. So basically, the major beneficiaries of our app would be the teachers that are deployed to these schools and our visits to government schools. So besides the schools that we implement, that is where we send teachers to, we go around and then we onboard teachers from public schools on our Teacher Bank app. So when we do this, the teachers in these schools are able to also take courses. This results to a ripple effect where teachers who are not necessarily in our own implementing school are equipped with skills that the teachers who are in our implementing schools have. That way, they go back to the classroom to teach with the same skills. So what it means is the same skill set that runs across for schools beyond just the schools where we implement. So our major beneficiaries would be teachers, because at the moment, the app has a place for courses for teachers, irrespective of whether you are onboarded as a teacher of the Teacher Bank app or not. As long as you are a teacher and can access the app, you're able to take these courses. So we intend that with more funding, with more partnerships, we'll have a place for students. That way, day two with a lot of guide now so that they don't go there and then explore what is not acceptable. We'll be able to take courses too, not courses now necessarily, but they'll be able to have access to past questions and other things that prepares them for life after high school. So basically, it goes up for teachers now because teachers are our main concern to connect them to students in these places. So we feel if they're equipped, it prepares and paves the way for students. So when the app is worked on and then there is the place for students, they're able to take past questions. They're also able to just fortify themselves even better for the next stage of their lives. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ritwa. I'm just conscious of time now, so I just want us to get to the question from Talik, which basically says they want to develop a student-focused digital information project on climate change. How can we basically work with you, and how can your experience help us, is what I'm getting from his question. 1 minute. If you, Ritma, Richard, if you can just sum it up for me in a minute, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you, Tilak, for the question. Like I mentioned, we are not designing anything. We're not reinventing the wheel per se. What we do is that we learn from insights and experiences globally, and again localize what is relevant in our local context. We'll be very happy to share these lessons. We are currently finalizing our massive online open course and its curriculum, which again we've borrowed lessons from various actors globally, and we'll be happy to publish. We are currently finalizing publishing it for a global audience, for other actors and communities to adopt and implement environmental education programs, not just in Kenya, but also in Sri Lanka. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard. Ritma, any response on your side, or are we good?
I just exclaimed interesting. So basically, we have an app for teachers, and well, besides just teachers, people can also take courses so that they become better. So if it is what they are open to, they can also download the Teacher Bank app and see what the app is like. And if it is something that appeals to them, we could also carry on conversations from there to see how best we can fit in, even though they would have to have the original idea, because our project is more education and theirs is agroecology.
Thank you. I'm sorry to cut you off. We have 2 minutes, and I just want to thank everybody involved in today's session. So thank you to our speakers, Richard, Emery's, Ritma. And also thank you to our sign language interpreters, our captioners, Tanya in the background, for their tireless work today. And thank you all for also making the time for us and joining us on today's call, and for being engaged throughout the session. And with that, I'd like to end. Have a lovely evening, afternoon, or morning, wherever you're watching from. Bye.
Thank you all so much.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.